On college campuses like this one, diversity has become an important selling point in admissions, especially when it comes to race and nationality. But what about income diversity? How are top US schools making sure that their programs are accessible for not just wealthy students?
The Berkeley student body isn't diverse at all, actually.
If they're international, sometimes they come from more wealthy backgrounds.
I come from a very low-income family, but a lot of my friends don't.
Hey guys, I'm Shreen. Today on AJ Plus, we're out of the studio and on UC Berkeley's campus. Today, we're looking at the status of diversity in elite schools. Elite US colleges are economically segregated. Only 3% of the student population comes from the poorest segment of society at the nation's most competitive schools. It's been that way for a long time, despite decades of progressive policies like federal subsidies and financial aid. For example, the federal government offers Pell Grants for low-income students. In 2010, President Obama expanded the pool of students who qualify. Some elite colleges argued the increase in Pell recipients made their schools more diverse. But research shows that's not true.
I do receive financial aid, but it's definitely not enough. I try to handle all the costs and everything just so I don't have to ask my parents for money.
The amount that I received for housing after I came out of the dorms was not even enough for 2 months.
The estimated amount that my parents had to pay was $0 initially. And then my second year, it was estimated around $800, and now it's around $4,000. And my parents don't make a lot of money together. They make less than $50,000.
Why does it matter if elite schools have many more wealthy students than they do low-income ones? After all, elite schools are only a tiny portion of higher education in this country. Well, it's important for moving up the ladder. Colleges are supposed to be engines of social mobility, according to Richard Kahlenberg, a scholar at the Century Foundation.
The idea is that in America, if you're smart and you work hard, you can be admitted to one of these top colleges and enjoy the American dream. And in fact, that's not happening. Universities are simply replicating advantage for already advantaged families.
Graduating from an elite school can be life-changing. The data shows that when a low-income student graduates from Yale, they're likely to make almost as much money as a wealthy student graduating from the same university. At elite schools, students get lifelong access to career centers and alumni networks. But relatively few low-income students are reaping these benefits. The reality is public universities like City University of New York and Texas A&M end up admitting more students from low-income backgrounds, and they're better at helping students climb the ladder. But their graduates, on average, make much less than graduates from elite schools. And states around the country are considering cutting budgets to subsidize schools like CUNY, and that would reduce access for low-income students. This is especially important because income inequality has been rising since the 70s. Another reason it's a big deal that elite schools don't admit many low-income students: about half of the country's government and corporate leaders come from just 12 universities.
When those institutions essentially shut out low-income students, that means that America's leaders are much less likely to know what it's like to struggle and have overcome disadvantages. And that has a big impact on public policy.
So why are low-income students so underrepresented at elite schools? A big barrier is college admissions criteria, and it penalizes students in a couple different ways. First, legacy preferences. That's a big factor at elite colleges, and it's when admissions are weighed in favor of students with alumni family. Next, a high emphasis on SAT scores, which correlate directly with income, not to mention all the other associated costs. Think about it. The SAT and ACT each cost about $50. Applying to a school like Stanford costs $100. If a kid's applying to 10 schools, that could cost $1,000. And that's not including a lifetime of extracurriculars and private tutors. Elite schools often boast of their generous financial aid packages. But Kahlenberg says there's actually little incentive for schools to admit low-income students, and that all comes back to college rankings.
All the incentives align against socioeconomic diversity. Every time you admit a low-income student, you have to provide him or her with financial aid. That's money that could be used to boost your rankings by having smaller class sizes or getting more star professors who boost the reputation of a school.
It's not difficult to see why low-income students are so underrepresented. For every low-income kid, there are 25 wealthy kids, and that can feel pretty isolating. So what's the solution? Well, some schools are working to make their admissions more inclusive of low-income students. The University of Texas is an interesting case to check out. After affirmative action was challenged in Texas courts, UT actually changed its admissions process to focus on income instead of race, and it actually worked. The change boosted the presence of both Black and Hispanic students and low-income students. But Kahlenberg says elite schools are unlikely to adopt similar programs, and it all comes down to the rankings. With affirmative action under attack and a Trump presidency, a pivot towards income-based admissions is something that more schools might have to consider. Today we talked about income diversity in college. Let us know in the comments what life after high school looked like for you, and if you went to college, how you and your family afforded it. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Thanks for watching.